Okay, so all this Emma Grede stuff is making me think about more lore about me that nobody asked for. Oh my God. Okay, so my last job, I actually started off working from home just because it was COVID and, had a whole bunch of stuff going on. So started working from home. It was great. I got to learn my job without all of the people nonsense, right? That happens. And just some of that anxiety of like having to remember people's names and all that stuff. So anyway, finally we do end up going back into office. So we go back into office and they start to have these like really weird in office, like coming back to office rules or whatever. And so one of the rules is that they want you to be in office like 3 days a week or so. Oh no, 2 days a week first. Then they said that you and your team would basically pick whatever those days. Then they said, okay, we want you back into office 3 days a week. And the mandatory day is Thursday because we had a bunch of like big meetings and stuff that would happen on Thursday. And then you pick like what the other 2 days would be. So anyway, also added in a rule about work from home days. So because I guess they felt like people were trying to work from home too much. So they said you get 4 weeks of work from home time. And with this 4 weeks of work from home time, they have to be like consecutive. So you can't just take a day here, a day there or whatever. You need to take a full week at a time that you are working from home. So those are the rules, okay? Got them. When we first started coming back into office, like people who like sat next to me, which not to go on a tangent, but anybody who works, and I'm talking about California, anybody who works in LA, like you normally don't live in LA. A lot of people, and even growing up, a lot of people worked in LA, but then they lived elsewhere. They lived in Orange County. They lived in Inland Empire. They lived in all these other surrounding cities that are surrounding cities. However, they are pretty far. Everybody's driving like an hour or so commute to get to work and then also to get back home. So this lady that sat right next to me lived pretty close to me. Maybe like, let's say she lived like 20 minutes away from me. So I would actually, if I was coming to work, I would probably pass her house and then be, have like another like 30, 45 minutes of driving time. So anyway, she lived like pretty close to where I lived and she would actually leave work early. And she would just be like, yeah, I gotta leave early. And, she would leave at like 2 or 3 o'clock or something to get out of LA traffic because LA traffic is horrible, especially if you're coming from LA back out to Inland Empire, Orange County area. So horrible traffic, she would leave at that time and she would leave like pretty often, right? So then I was like, oh, like her and like a few other people, they like were leaving early and stuff. People, for her, she said her excuse was like, yeah, I want to get out of traffic and I need to get home to my cats. Somebody else, it was like, yeah, I need to get out of traffic, get to my kids. It was like those type of excuses of, why people like left early or whatever. Some people just left early. It didn't even matter. They just left. So that was starting to happen. And so I was like, oh, okay. Like, so I start to leave early and I'm just, telling my manager like, yeah, just so I can get out of traffic. I had actually a really good reason because all the people that I talked to and interacted with were in a different country. And so if I would have and I always had meetings with them first thing in the morning, their time. So if I would have stayed at work, I'd be at work until like 8 or 9 o'clock PM, like either waiting to have meetings with them or having meetings with them. So I was just like, hey, like, let me leave a little bit early. That way I can get home, get settled, and then get back on these like 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock meetings, right? I start doing that. My manager pulls me aside and is like, hey, Nicole, you can't leave early. I'm like, okay. So I start basically just staying at work. I camp out at work. Sometimes I leave at like 5 o'clock and then I'll like go to Target. That was my main thing back then. I would go to Target like every single day. I would go to different Targets. I would go to the mall and I would like go there for like, an hour or so as I'm waiting for these calls to happen. And then I get on the call or whatever, sit down, do something, or take the call while I'm driving and just sit in like 3 and 4 hour traffic. It was horrible. So, and I got really, really overweight during that time because I would just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. Crazy. Have to go back to that later. But during this time, I would just be like camping out at the office or somewhere around LA. A lot of times I would just stay in the office because it's like, it's comfortable. I'm here. There's, security. I can get to my car and all that type of stuff or whatever. So I would do that. And so my manager, because she would leave early too, and my other coworker, she would leave early too. For a while, I didn't really see them leave early. But like maybe a week later, everybody else started to leave early. And so there were a lot of times where I was in the office by myself, just working, nobody looking at me, no one doing anything else. I'm literally on some of these calls and maybe my manager would be on the call and she would be home. So anyway, that would happen. Then with the whole rule of working with the 4 weeks working from home time or whatever, the girl next to me would be like, I guess she would work it out with her manager where she would actually take a sick day. And you got paid because you're still working, right? So anyway, she would take like a sick day and still work on that sick day, but she's taking the sick day because she wanted to stay home. So I was like, you know what, can I do something like that? Like, I'm home, like, I kind of want to, just like finish a few things up. My meetings aren't until 5, blah, blah, blah. No, Nicole, you can't take a sick day. Like, no, you can't do that if you're not sick. You can only take a sick day if you're sick. Okay, so then we get to the 4 weeks working from home time, right? So I'm starting to use mine, just during little times where I'm like, okay, like, let me just go ahead and use it. This will be a good time for me to like stay home the entire week. I noticed that my manager, as well as other coworkers that are like actually directly on my team, because the person that sat next to me, she wasn't directly on my team, but her boss and my boss were like peers or whatever. And we basically did a lot of the same things. But I would notice that the people on my team would be taking them days, them work from home days, however they wanted to. They did not take a consistent week. And so it makes me think of this Emma Grede thing because you're not talking about Black people. You're not talking about Black women especially. You're talking about you and your specific type of whatever you are that gets to have something so cut and dry like that. My time in the corporate world has never been cut and dry. It has never been, hey, you need to follow this rule and that's it. It has never been that. It's never been linear. I have probably gotten maybe a handful of awards in my time in corporate spaces. And that has happened because I have had genuine good people around that said, oh my gosh, Nicole, I love your work. I love working with you. I need people to see you. It has never been based on, oh, I need to do this. I need to ask, whatever. Because at my last position, I absolutely asked for a bigger raise. Absolutely asked for a bigger promotion. Absolutely said, hey, what are the things that I need to do so that I can get ahead? What are the things that need to happen? And you know what kept happening? Hey, we're like super busy right now. Let's get back to that next quarter because we'll be able to really, really work on that. So I just feel like Emma Grede, like, you're not talking to the Black woman experience. You're not talking to the Black fat woman experience. You're not talking to the Black dark-skinned woman experience. You're not talking to the Black woman who cannot go in and out of being a Black woman. I don't know who you're talking to. I don't know who that message is for because it does not apply to everybody. And I want to add that there was no issues with my actual work. The issue came in regard to, hey, you need to stay in the office. And turns out it's just the Black girl that got to stay in the office. That's all.